All I'm
That's
saying
what we
is,
said. There are people who didn't want it to happen at all. You sound like one of them. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Like, what is the alternative to not talking? Just sit at your lunch table?
Tyrus, now what do you think? Maher said, liberals are not going to like this. I know they're going to come after me. And of course, they did come after him.
I'm sorry, I don't know what y'all watched, but Bill Maher.
Once known for projecting sharp wit and supreme confidence, Bill Maher appeared firmly in control at the start of the exchange, presenting himself as the dominant voice of sarcasm. That balance shifted abruptly when Tyrus stepped in. What followed was not a quick punchline or routine retort, but a decisive turn in tone. In a moment that moved beyond casual back and forth, Maher's trademark smirk faded almost immediately. Tyrus responded by redirecting the exchange, effectively mirroring Maher's own comedic approach and reversing its impact. The interaction unfolded rapidly, leaving Maher without a clear response. For viewers, the moment captured a rare instance of Maher being overtaken in his own style, creating a tense, high-energy exchange that was unmistakable and difficult to overlook.
Sorry, this is like someone who talked about black people his whole life and then had dinner with one and said, actually, after I had dinner with them, they're not that bad, guys. No, you don't get to do that, you coward. You went on a show and you tried to play both sides of the street.
That's right.
Why, so maybe he could do your show? Because the 300,000 people that watch it, if we had those numbers here, I wouldn't be here. These dudes make me laugh. Cowards die.
At this stage, Bill Maher's familiar smile following uneasy punchlines appears less a sign of assurance and more a reflex. The expression suggests a performer preemptively rewarding himself simply for taking the stage, as though evaluating his own remarks in real time. Maher continues to frame himself as an unfiltered voice willing to confront uncomfortable realities. However, the delivery often reads differently, resembling a self-assured figure who equates volume and persistence with truthfulness, projecting certainty without necessarily reinforcing credibility.
Can move too far left. And when you do, you wind up pushing the people in the middle to the right. At its worst, Canada is what American voters think happens when there's no one putting a check on extreme wokeness. They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off.
This is the moment when Tyrus voices what many in the room already recognize. Bill Maher is no longer testing limits, but moving comfortably through familiar territory, repeating earlier themes and depending on audience courtesy or inattention to carry the moment. Without the stage and spotlight, his presence appears diminished, more like a figure seeking relevance while still portraying himself as a bold challenger. The contrast is striking, as the cultural landscape Maher claims to confront has largely progressed, showing little interest in engaging with him further.
Things about President Trump nonstop. You had no reference point. That's all you proved to me. You sit down with a man, you break bread with a man, then you come and say, well, on this night, he was okay, but don't be mad at me. Splitting hairs.
Attention now turns to delivery, where the performance itself becomes part of the story. Bill Maher's comedic timing no longer appears fluid or deliberate. Each line arrives with visible effort, released slowly and left to stand on its own. Extended pauses stretch across the room, creating uncertainty about whether a punchline has landed or stalled. The build-up feels weighted, as though anticipating a response that has yet to form. Rather than precise rhythm, the moments conclude in prolonged quiet, with each joke seemingly prompting the audience to react simply to clear the space and allow the program to continue.
This whole thing, everyone keeps acting like they need Bill Maher. The little guy who doesn't lift weights, 99% of the internet, what, MySpace? Come on, man. This dude represents nobody. A PR stunt for who? I'm sorry, I missed the Oval Office Rose Garden meeting where President Trump was talking about Bill Maher was there.
Yeah.
Bill Maher positions himself as an authority figure on stage, addressing the audience as though delivering a lesson rooted in perspectives that now feel dated. He directs criticism broadly, moving confidently through the performance and projecting control over the room. That confidence shifts when the response falls flat, revealing visible surprise at the lack of engagement. Rather than presenting measured commentary, the approach suggests an effort to maintain prominence, with the performance reflecting more strain than ease as it attempts to hold relevance.
Talking about it. The president's not talking about it. He doesn't need Bill Maher. He's got 70% of the country cheering him on. He walked into UFC. Crazy.
Then why did he accept dinner with him if he didn't?
Because he's like everybody else.
No, why did Trump?
Because that's who Trump is. He will break bread with anyone. He will sit with Kim Jong-un and break bread. So little punk-ass Bill Maher coming to the house and sitting in his seat. And what did Trump did? He was gracious. He treated him. Everything. He had to leave and come.
Bill Maher positions himself as an authority figure on stage, addressing the audience as though delivering a lesson rooted in perspectives that now feel dated. He directs criticism broadly, moving confidently through the performance and projecting control over the room. That confidence shifts when the response falls flat, revealing visible surprise at the lack of engagement. Rather than presenting measured commentary, the approach suggests an effort to maintain prominence, with the performance reflecting more strain than ease as it attempts to hold relevance.
He wasn't any of the things I said because you were part of the machine. You were part of the thing. He wasn't as bad as Joe and Micah was where he's sharp as attack, but he led the charge. He continued to say things that weren't true. He supported things without ever bothering to say, hey, you know what? I want to sit down and if I have a problem with someone, if I had a problem with Johnny and me and him had a problem, I'd be like, we need to sit down and talk before I would go out on social media and talk about him. But he needs President Trump.
And I'd say, let me have
needs
a
the
weapon
audience.
first.
Yes, yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah.
But at this point, to coin one of the greatest, funniest phrases in all of comedy, I would ask Bill Maher to step in my office. And he would say, why? Because he's...
His focus on presenting himself as the final defender of authentic comedy now appears less a stand for open expression and more a reflection of another era. The material carries a dated tone, the rhythm slows noticeably, and frequent interruptions disrupt the flow. The structure of the performance remains largely unchanged, following a familiar pattern. Guests are introduced, dialogue is overtaken, and emphasis is placed on reinforcing his own authority in the room. The repetition underscores a routine that has seen little evolution over time.
The difference, you can just see the way we dress. We're not different people. This is like, you come from, the slacks generation. Like slacks were
These are
still
jeans.
a thing.
These are
No,
not
but
slacks.
slacks were a thing.
No, I look good. That's the difference. Is that you were
Do
wearing
look good.
you're wearing
You don't gotta
sneakers.
throw that in my
You got
face.
you got a t-shirt on. Like
You look like offended.
Bill Maher established his public image around a sharp edge that, over time, has been softened and carefully managed. He frequently speaks about boldness, yet returns repeatedly to familiar material that rarely advances beyond its starting point. Rather than challenging boundaries, the approach appears to rely on staying within them and counting on audience approval. That context explains why Tyrus's direct criticism resonated so strongly. While Maher operates with the support of a studio setting and production safeguards, Tyrus addressed the issue without insulation. The exchange carried enough weight for a primetime moment, even if such unfiltered confrontation is rarely given that platform.
Maher finally got back on his show and told us what happened when he went to the White House and met with Donald Trump. I like Bill Maher and I like going on his show, but he definitely has been suffering from a case of the TDS. Once the TDS gets you, it's hard to come out from under it. But I see shoots of grass, mixing all sorts of metaphors. I think he's starting to come out from under it. And to his credit, he went there. It was brokered by Kid Rock. And to his credit, President Trump allowed it, welcomed this, and was very gracious to Bill Maher, who has been brutal.
Bill Maher approaches each episode as if delivering a corrective message to the culture, positioning himself as a guiding voice addressing the nation. What follows are arguments that feel underdeveloped, paired with familiar references and extended monologues that echo well-worn talking points. The effort to maintain cultural relevance becomes increasingly visible. Audience response plays a central role, with applause serving as a measure of momentum. Each reaction reinforces the sense that control of the room remains intact, sustaining the performance as it moves forward.
He wants Democrats to fight. Now he's whining. She's talking like a podcaster. Like, do you know how many members of Congress I've talked to who actually curse? I know preachers who curse. Shut the hell up, Bill Maher. Go smoke a blunt.
Tyrus's critique lands less like a comedic jab and more like a pointed public message. Bill Maher is framed not as a bold truth-teller, but as a familiar figure convinced of his own central importance while largely unnoticed by others. He continues to reference an earlier era of politically incorrect comedy, presenting it as groundbreaking, even as his work remains firmly within the comfort of an established platform. The moment underscores a contrast between claims of resistance and the reality of operating from a secure, well-supported position.
Pal Bill Maher is at it again. He's got this, the TDS gets in his eyes sometimes and he says some wacky things, and here's one of them. SOP 23.
I don't know if I was the first one to use the phrase slow-moving coup. If there was a slow-moving.
The broader narrative around cancel culture appears carefully staged. Bill Maher presents his material as if each remark risks professional fallout, despite delivering similar commentary for years from one of television's most secure platforms. His familiar reassurance that remarks are meant in jest often registers less as humor and more as instruction. The effect is not provocative satire, but a routine that feels repetitive and self-assured, lacking the sharpness expected of boundary-pushing comedy and leaving the segment with a noticeably muted impact.
He can't smoke a blunt because he is an ass. He's a blunt himself. Listen, a blunt tool for stupidity. Bill Maher, to me, for a long time, has been anti-black. And I know a lot of people say they don't believe that. Bill Maher is racist as hell. This is just a reminder of that. The idea or the audacity of him to have a problem with Jasmine Crack, who is the most, who shows up to work more prepared than anybody in every fucking committee she sits on. No one is more prepared than this representative.
Bill Maher projects a heightened sense of self-assurance, framing his panel program as a rare space for open debate, though the format often centers more on personal validation. He frequently cuts off guests, reinforces his own points, and presents the exchange as dialogue. At the same time, he criticizes other late-night figures, overlooking their clear focus on entertainment. Maher also delivers extended commentary on younger generations and digital culture, adopting an explanatory tone that feels observational rather than engaged. Those segments register less as analysis and more as familiar frustration, echoing complaints that feel increasingly detached from the audience he addresses.
Somebody like Bill Maher, who took a shot, and not surprisingly, predicted doom and gloom, has come back to say the following. Listen to this on Stop 4.
Remember, I, along with probably most people, were saying at the beginning, oh, you know, by the 4th of July, somebody had to think how the country was, the economy was going to be tanked by then. By this time.
Another recurring focus is Bill Maher's long-running conflict with religion. His approach frames criticism as a central feature, delivered with a tone that emphasizes dismissal rather than examination. The film Religulous is presented less as an inquiry and more as a platform for derision, with believers treated as targets rather than participants in dialogue. When challenged, Maher often characterizes the response as suppression, despite maintaining a prominent platform for decades. The contrast stands out, as a figure with sustained national exposure continues to describe himself as constrained while addressing a wide audience year after year.
Look at you trying to beat him drinking and driving charge. He doesn't have any priors, Your Honor. Look at him. He's wearing his Chelsea boots. He's a, and what do they call it? A productive member of society.
No one ever
All
made...
right, well then Nepo baby. Your dad has a construction company. You take it over. Does somebody call him a Nepo baby? No, it just becomes, you know, Sanford and Son.
Yeah, but it's a little more pronounced when it's in the arts, because you have this...
I hate that word.
Why?
Pronounced.
Jesus
Because
Christ.
that's like a PED.
You know what?
You know what it was? That was like a PED for your...
Tyrus delivers a direct and unambiguous assessment. Bill Maher is portrayed not as a challenger, but as a predictable performer reusing provocative themes that remain safely within established boundaries. The concern is not professional backlash, but fading attention. That prospect appears to be the underlying tension. Behind the confident presentation is a veteran entertainer who equates applause with substance, holding tightly to a familiar platform as the perception of danger and influence gradually diminishes.